common example I like to use when we're thinking about American English. How do we sound more natural? There's an instrument that I think could be really, really helpful, and that instrument is a piano because pianos have keys. On the right hand side, you get your like higher pitches, and then on your left hand side, you get your lower pitches. And there's some principles with those pitches that we need in order to achieve a more natural sound. We need to tap in to that range, but there's also a very common mistake that I want to go over today that if you are able to correct, it's going to help you achieve a much, much, much more natural sound in American English. So let's get into that. Good morning, guys. Good evening. Good afternoon. Welcome to your American English pronunciation review show, the Schwa Mill. We are here a little bit late today. Typically, we're here Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, right around 7 a.m. at New York to look at two pronunciation files that you send to us. And to guide you in this process, there's me. Hi, my name is Geoff. It rhymes with breath. That's one of the 4 keys to a natural sound in American English pronunciation, including placement, pitch, breath, trying to weaken your consonant sounds in order to strengthen your vowel sounds. And I have 2 more audio files we're going to be taking a look at today. We're going to be making some graphs and things like that as well to help you visualize these concepts. Let's take a listen to our very first file for today.
What I really like about remote work is that I don't have to visit Chicago that often.
Okay, and thanks to everyone who's been sending us files. If you would like to send a file for the potential to get reviewed on the show, you can take a look at the video description. We have a link to a free Telegram group where people send us files that I choose from. Let's listen to this one more time.
What I really like about remote work is that I don't have to visit Chicago that often.
There's a little section here that I think is going to be the most helpful. And it's this section that says, like, really like about remote work. And what you may notice about this section is that all of these words are ending on these consonant sounds. We have like ending on a k sound, about ending on a t, remote ending on a t, and then work ending on that k sound as well. And one of the things that we see in American English that's very different than a lot of other languages is that a lot of times when people pronounce these, you could say these as like, about, remote, work. You could certainly do that, but the more frequent way you're often going to hear these said is like, about, remote, work. You hear that difference between like and like, or about and about. This is called a held sound or a stop sound. And basically what it means is that we are not allowing the breath to continue releasing on the consonant sound. This does not mean that the breath completely stops. And one of the things that I'm hearing happening in this audio file, when we play it again, is that we're getting some complete stop.
What I really like about remote work is that I don't have
like about remote work. So what ends up happening is you get this kind of choppy sound just trying to link your words together. We're not really linking them together. We just have like, it sounds very one word at a time. Like about remote work. Okay. And the way to link this together is, yes, we do want to use some held consonants here, but you don't want to stop the breath completely. You don't want to like release on the consonant, but you don't want to block the breath too much, because if you do that, it's going to result in a choppier sound. So again, it's going to sound something a bit more like this.
What I really like about remote work is that
like about remote work, it feels like you're kind of like bobbing up and down a little bit. And one way you can smooth that out is to extend the breath even after your vowel ends. This is a necessary component of American English accents. So instead of saying like about, can we do more like about, like about, like about? And in fact, one other option you have here is that K sound at the end of like is then followed by a vowel sound, that sound on about. So what could happen is you could get that consonant sound, the K, you could keep it and link it with that sound on about. So instead of like about, you could also say like about, like about, like about. So now you're kind of keeping that K sound a little bit more. How about getting from about to remote? It's like about remote, about remote. It's a little bit choppy versus like about remote, about remote, about remote. See how now it's able to flow by extending the breath more. About remote. And again, from remote onto work. So instead of doing remote work, it could be like remote work, remote work. And again, the way this is happening, we're keeping the diaphragm engaged. We're keeping breath flowing the entire time. We're not releasing on the T sound. So we're not saying the remote work. Okay, but we are keeping the breath flowing to a degree. Remote work. So instead of saying like about remote work, it can become like about remote work, like about remote work. Some other things I'm doing too, you can see the pitch progression we talked in the beginning about like the piano. This is like we're moving down the left hand side of the piano. We're just going like about remote work and then stressing work, and then we move up. Like about remote work, like about remote work, like about remote work, like about remote work. And that'd be your progression. And that's going to help smooth things out and give you a bit more of a natural flow and sound for that sequence. Thank you so much for sending that audio file. Greatly appreciated. Before we move on to our central focus for today, where we talk a bit more about pitch and some pitch things to avoid, I do just want to do two quick things. Firstly, want to give a quick shout out to the shadowing channels. Those of you who don't know, we have a shadowing channel at youtube.com/@FluentAmericanShadowing. You can find it on the homepage on Fluent American as well. And yeah, so we just passed the 20,000 subscriber threshold. So thank you to people who have been so impacted by the channel that they've pressed subscribe. And I know that there's many more people that don't subscribe than do. None that really bothers me, but I do appreciate people who press that button. Thank you so much. The other thing is that, once again, for YouTube channel members right here at youtube.com/FluentAmerican, I do want to kind of just let you know, what does that channel membership actually do? And what it does is it gives you access to all of our group coaching classes that you will be able to watch live with us. And also, you'll be able to participate with us in the chat and things like that. So the current schedule looks a little bit something like this. I know there's a graphic and things like that. But basically, most days between 9 and 11:30, we have 3 different classes going on. Okay, and then there's an evening session as well on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays from 9 to 9:30 p.m. And then Fridays we have a slightly condensed schedule. You can see all of that on the screen. But basically, if you're a YouTube channel member, you get to watch all of those group coaching classes. So if you're looking to get a steep discount on the group coaching, you want to get access to the information, and you want to sound more natural when you express yourself. I'll be honest, it's not really just in English. It's going to, a lot of these things carry over to your first language as well. You just want to become a better communicator. I would encourage you, hey, you may find those classes helpful. And that's what YouTube channel members get. So it might be something to experiment with. Give it a try. And if you have any questions about that, feel free, of course, to reach out. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have. All that said, let's take a listen to our final file for today, talking a bit about stress.
A lot of students have a hard time with this. Instead, what they do is they tend to make the vowel really long.
Okay. I want to listen to that one more time.
A lot of students have a hard time with this. Instead, what they do is they tend to make the vowel really long.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about how stress works. I'm going to share my screen with this. I'm looking at one of the key phrases that was just said. One of those phrases was, instead, what they do. Okay. Let's listen to that one more time. I'll share my screen and we'll talk about it.
A lot of students have a hard time with this. Instead, what they do is they tend to make the vowel really long.
Okay. Let's take a listen. Let's take a look at this chart. You get to see my wonderful handwriting. Okay. So we have this phrase. This is just an example of the phrase. Situations like this happen throughout this audio file. So we're just going to use this as an example. Okay. The way that this was said was there was a stress on they. Okay. And that already tells us some information. Okay. That tells us that the pitch has to go up. Okay, so when you stress a word in English, you have to go up in pitch, which means that in order for that to go up in pitch, that means that before it, I have to move down in pitch. And in fact, what we find in American English, and we talked about this a lot, is that right before a stress, you don't just go down in pitch, you go extra down in pitch. So what I would expect that what to be pretty low. Okay. Then everything before that is kind of descending to that point, because to show stress, that's where I go up in pitch. That means that everywhere else in my phrase, I have to move down. So that means that the stead maybe is going to be here, and maybe in is there. And then lastly, do. So this is kind of the movement that you would expect if we were saying this. Yeah. Not a perfect chart, not to scale, but it kind of gets the idea. When you stress something, go up in pitch. When you don't stress something, go down in pitch right before the stress. Take an extra step down. Okay. What you're going to notice about this, if you just kind of map all the pitches, is that the in right here might actually be higher in pitch than your stressed word. So yes, the stressed word does go high in pitch, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the highest pitch in your thought group. It might not be. The highest pitch in your thought group might come closer to the beginning of the thought group. Okay. I'm going to say this two ways and see if you hear the difference. Here's the first way. Instead, what they do. Instead, what they do. That's the first way. Second way. Instead, what they do. Instead, what they do. Okay. Can you hear a difference between that? Again, first way. Instead, what they do. Second way. Instead, what they do. Hear the difference between those. Let's play our original file.
A lot of students have a hard time with this. Instead, what they do is they tend to make the vowel really long.
One of the things I'm hearing our friend here do the higher pitched one, where the they really pops. They're not saying they here, they're putting they all the way up here. Instead, what they do, and in fact, that sort of movement is happening all over the place in this file, right? Some other places where that's happening.
A lot of students have a hard time with this.
A lot of students have a hard time with that. So what's happening is we're just continuing to take that stress word and making it the highest pitch part of our thought group, which can work. That's not saying never do that. I just did right there. Like, which can work. You can do that. But it's not going to happen for every single thought group. And one of the things I'm hearing here is that we're just doing it in every single situation. We're doing this in every single situation. Okay. What I'm saying is that, hey, tone down your stress words. They don't have to be the highest pitch part of your thought group. They just have to go higher than whatever came before them. All right. That was some analysis for 2 audio files. Thanks to everyone who's been sending us files. It's greatly appreciated. I'm always looking for more. So if you would like to get a chance to have your own pronunciation reviewed, what you can do is look at the video description. Check out that group that says Free Telegram Group for the Schwa Mill pronunciation review. You can then post your audio files, say hello, ask questions to me, and things like that. And I'll be happy to review them. We'll be back tomorrow. I will make a quick note that Friday is a holiday in the U.S., so we're going to follow suit. So we will not have a Schwa Mill episode this Friday, but we will be back tomorrow. Be here on Tuesday, and then we'll be back next week on Monday. All right, with that, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, have a good afternoon, and I will see you all later. Take care, guys.